This past week, I really kind of hit a space that didn't feel great. One of my kiddos was giving me feedback, sharing her emotions about me to me, and it was difficult. It was difficult to sit in. But I had this moment where I was just feeling like, man, I just feel like across the board, I'm getting a C minus in sort of everything. It kind of got the best of me. Hi, welcome back. Hi, hi, hi. Okay, we're going to be doing a solo today. Before I jump into this solo when we're talking about, I just want to say thank you to all of you for the incredible feedback about the episode with John Paul that aired last week. It was really fun having him on the show. I really debated whether or not to do that. I had thought about it previously and I was like, no, he doesn't belong on the show. Like there's enough spaces in the world for men. Like he's good, he's good. And I'm really glad I trusted that like impromptu last minute intuition to be like, you know what, why don't you come on? And I think the reason it struck a chord with so many of you and why I would love to maybe have him back is towards the end of the episode, we really start talking about how our partnership has changed as I've started to take on a new role and a new identity and how that's affected our home life. And I think this is one of the things that so many of us find ourselves in this position, right? Like we are women in midlife who are making some changes in our life, whether that's our vocation or our passion or just changing dynamics of our well-being, or maybe it's within a relationship. And when we start making those changes, we come head to head with our partners, whether that is, our boyfriend, girlfriend situation, whether it's in a marriage, whether that's co-parenting, whatever it may be, those intimate relationships get tested. And it requires re-examining some old agreements that maybe we've subconsciously made. Like JP and I definitely had some old agreements and patterns that we had fallen into subconsciously. And so over the years, it's been taking us a minute to just step back and re-examine some of those and kind of redefine some new roles. And that's difficult to do. It requires a lot of difficult conversations. And a lot of times for us, I know you get this, but a lot of things that we need as women, we're like, I don't even know. This is all new to me. So to tell you what it is that I need or how to change is difficult. So anyway, that was a really fun conversation. And we're going to dive more into that in the next couple of weeks. So there are other things, not that JP and I in any means, I was saying to him, we went for a walk last night and I was saying to him, I'm like, it's funny because by no means do I think we have like a great partnership or like a relationship experts. Like we should be giving no one advice on relationships. But what I think is what we do a good job at is we're open to some of the dialogue. We're open to having some of the conversations. And so I said, I think it's just like taking a peek behind the curtain. You know what I mean? Like, in the Wizard of Oz, you're like, you just want to like see behind the curtain. You're like, just tell me how you're doing this. Like, tell me the conversations you're starting so that I can go into my own home and have some of these similar conversations. Not that people are going to do it identical to how we're doing it, but maybe if anything, it just inspires some dialogue in your own home, in your own partnership. So anyway, he's going to come back on because I feel like we were just starting to scratch the surface and we can just hash things out more. All to say, thank you for your support and just your grace with having him on it. It was really a fun episode for me personally. Okay, so today I had some things I wanted to talk to you about, mainly around balance. I hate that word, but I'm juggling all the things. Really, when it comes to motherhood, I have been avoiding having like the motherhood conversation on here. I don't know why. I've kind of like pushed aside motherhood for a while, even though it's such a huge part of my identity. I'm a mom of 4 young kids. But I think because I identified for so long as a mom that now in this new chapter, I'm like, yeah, that's been covered. And it really kind of hasn't. And I've been on the struggle bus lately with the kids. JB and I don't have help. So when he's traveling and he's been traveling quite a bit, it's just me with the kids. And listen, I'm totally fully capable of taking care of my kiddos. But it's a lot managing the 4 different dynamics, all of their needs, and then trying to also equally take care of myself and my own mental well-being and physical well-being, and then also do things like podcast or plan retreats and work on my book and do the things that I want to do. It's sort of, I was thinking about this the other day. It's almost like I feel as though I'm set up to fail. Does anyone else feel that way? You're like, it is literally too much for any one person to take on. And yet every day I wake up and I'm like, I'm going to get it all done. Like I go in with the best of intentions. I'm really excited about the day. And it's just like, oh, I feel like I cannot get ahead of it. this past week, I really kind of hit a space that didn't feel great. One of my kiddos was giving me feedback, sharing her emotions about me to me, and it was difficult. It was difficult to sit in. And I felt like, all of their concerns were valid and real, and we can talk about it in a minute. But I had this moment where I was just feeling like, man, I am doing like, I don't know baseball analogies, but like whatever like a really bad batting average would be. How I feel like I'm doing these days. Like I just feel like across the board, I'm getting a C minus in sort of everything. And I was thinking to myself, if I'm feeling this way, and P.S., I just want to caveat that by saying, I know it's not true. I know I'm doing actually really well, but my mind loves to fuck with me. Well, and I think our society too has like these expectations of like all the things we're supposed to do. So it kind of got the best of me. And so for a moment last week, I was like, man, I am doing like C's across the board. And if I'm feeling this way, I know there are other women who are feeling this way. So I wanted to talk with you just sort of about that. So we're going to talk about motherhood and balancing it all and the bullshit of balancing. Because I don't think it's anyone who does it well. And then kind of dive into some of the questions that you shared with me. I had asked you all, I said, I'm going to do a solo, send me in your questions. And you girls, of course, sent me in some really good, juicy things that I wasn't planning on talking about, but I was like, you know what? Let's just roll with it here. So we're going to talk about a little bit about what I want to talk about, a little bit about what you want to talk about, and I think it'll be a great show. So we might dive into some friendship stuff that you were asking about. People were asking about intuition and making some big decisions, and so I'm happy to talk about that. Maybe a little bit about sobriety again, and we'll see just where it goes. Okay, so this is a tough one for me. I have tried recording this little segment about motherhood probably 65 different times, and every single time I'm just like not nailing it, mainly because this is way too big of a topic and I'm still kind of processing how I feel about all of it. So I'm just going to say the concept of the idea of motherhood is way too big to kind of dissect in 15, 20 minutes sitting here. So I'm just going to share with you sort of where I'm at, and maybe it resonates with you, maybe not. And I just wanted to share it with you because I am really struggling. I'm really struggling. And this feels new for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've kind of always struggled in motherhood. And I was really naive because I actually thought I had some control over it. You know what I mean? Like, even when they were little, I felt overwhelming, but I was like, I was still in control of bedtime. I could still pick where their meals were. Like when they were speaking back to me in a certain tone, I was like, please talk to me in your kind voice. Like it felt manageable. I mean, overwhelming and I was exhausted, but it felt manageable. Does that make any sense? And as they're getting older, I've really lost the reins. And, I think JP would argue, he'd be like, no, you haven't. But I feel like I have. I feel like I have. I have lost all control. And it's a really overwhelming feeling as a mom to feel like, I don't know how this is going. And I don't really think I'm doing it great. I will say there's the whole idea of like perfectionism when it comes to motherhood. And I am like way past that. Like we've like given up on perfectionism and being a perfect mom a long time ago. I'm just trying to get to a point where my kids like aren't hating me. And I'm not even joking when I'm saying that. And I don't think they do. I know that they don't. We actually have a really wonderful relationship. And with that really wonderful relationship comes a lot of flipping feedback. And it is a lot. And if you have teens, you know what I'm talking about. And I've talked about teens many times before. And I will say, I do think they get a bad rap. And so this is not to like go against that. This is my favorite time of motherhood and it's my hardest, mainly because it's requiring me to take care of myself the most and be the most grounded I can be because it's testing me the most. When they were younger, I felt like I had a little bit of control. And now, as they're older, I recognize that I never had any of the control. Like that was always an illusion. And now I've given up all of it. And I'm just like hoping and praying that things just like stay good and that things go well because it feels like a very vulnerable time for me with them, mainly because they're older and they're seeing me more as a person instead of a mom. Does that make any sense? Like they see you in a different light. I think that's really healthy, but like I've definitely come down off the pedestal. Like my two younger kids definitely see me as like mom. And there is this like I'm held on a pedestal and I think I can do no wrong in their eyes. And my older two, like, have definitely taken me down from the pedestal. They see me as a woman who's very flawed, who happens to be their mother. And I definitely can do wrong in their eyes. And they're sure to like let me know. And that is new. And my time with them is limited. And so I'm like trying my best to like catch up to a moving train. Like that's how it feels. And I don't know if anyone with teens or older kids, like if you feel that way, like the train is a running and I'm just like running to catch up. And the whole way through, like I'm just shooting darts at things and I feel like I'm getting it wrong, mainly with my daughter, which is interesting. And I don't really want to get into like specifics of like each of the kids because they're all great. And I actually have a really good dynamic with all of them. My oldest Asher seems to be, but I think that's just his nature. He doesn't, I don't know, he seems to be like doing okay. And my daughter, who's 14, is the one that I get the most, if you will, like feedback with. And she shared with me, which I'm so glad she feels comfortable too. But, this past week she was really struggling and I tried to to meet her in her struggles. I really, really tried. And, I recognizing that there's going to be a point where it doesn't matter what I say or do, I'm always going to be in the wrong. And that's just kind of the seat I need to take. And it's a shitty one. When she was younger, and we don't need to get into like specifics about her, but I'll just share when she was younger, Lillian was in occupational therapy and we did a little bit of just like, you know, I don't know what to call it, like cognitive behavioral therapy. She no longer feels like she needs it. But all to say, she's always had big feelings. Like this is not new. And as she's become a teen, those big feelings are still there. And she just knows how to deal with it better and how to manage all of it. But pretty early on with her, I had to make the conscious choice of even when she'd be having these really big emotions and be having these difficult days, I would remind myself like I wasn't going to have a bad day just because Lillian was having a bad day or one of my kids was having a bad day. Like I had to separate myself from them. And I was like, they're going to have their own experience and their own life, and they may be really emotional or they may be having a temper tantrum at the time when they were younger or whatever it may be. And just because they're having a really bad emotional day doesn't mean I have to. And separating myself and not having my kids be a reflection of me. And I'm really glad that I learned that when they were younger. And that was something I had, it's just like I had no choice. And so it was something I've had I guess you would say, the luck or the privilege to practice a lot. And so it has prepped me, I would just say, for like these teenage years as Lillian's having, again, some emotional moments, some difficult times, whether it's with friends or just with her own body. She's struggling with her things that are very appropriate for teens to struggle with. And I'm witnessing her have these moments and separating myself and being like, okay, she's allowed to have her feelings. She's a separate person outside of me. She's not a reflection of me. She's her own being, complete and whole on her own, just like I am. And whatever she's experienced, all you have to do is just be a witness to it. You don't need to change it. You don't need to fix it. You just need to witness it. So that's sort of what I've been like practicing myself. And usually that was okay for us. That's been good. And we're in this new season now, though, even when I'm just witnessing things for her. And I really try not to have an opinion. I try not to give advice. I try to be more just like listening. It doesn't seem to be landing. And the feedback back to me is I'm not doing enough and I'm not giving the right feedback or I'm not giving the right advice or I'm not being loving enough or I don't make the right dinners or I don't, whatever it may be. And it's a moving target. And I think it's all really healthy and really natural. And in my mind, in my conscious mind, I know none of this has anything to do with me. That it's just her expressing her emotions or her anxieties or her nerves. And she feels safe with me. And even though I know that, it doesn't always feel great on the receiving end. And she was sharing some feedback with me about what how she'd like me to work on things or things to change. And it was like, I don't know, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And I was in my bed and just like listening. And I was just doing everything I could to stay present and not react and not respond. I was like, I hear you. I hear you. This all makes sense. Thank you for sharing with me how you feel. I understand. And listen, not that I agree with all of it, but I understand. And in her world, this is really how she feels. Like she really feels this way. She really feels like I'm not being supportive or listening. And so you just have no choice but to listen and say, thank you. I hear you. And I'm going to work on that. And I tuck her in and I give her big hugs and I say, I love you. And, the next day she was super sweet. She's like, I'm sorry. Did that hurt your feelings? I was like, no. And I don't want my kids to ever have to worry about my emotions. Like, that's not their responsibility. I'm a grown ass woman. I can take care of myself. And I always want to be the person that my kids can, I don't know, I'm going to say like neutralize their feelings with, or metabolize their feelings with, or process their feelings with. They can just share it with me and they know that like it is just like it comes in and it just goes out, that I'm not taking it personally. And I'm just going to share with you girls privately that I'm kind of taking it personally. I mean, I'm not in my conscious mind, I'm not. And the next morning I had to go for a walk and I cried. And I was just like, it sucks. It sucks when it feels like you're getting things wrong with the kids. And I will tell you, like, I love writing. I love podcasting. I love the retreats. I love all of it. But like, I'm going to be really straight up with you. The most important things in my life are those four little people. And that is the job I take the most seriously. And I would give up anything for them. And I've thought about it. Like when I went on my walk the other day, I was like, do I just quit? That's it. No more retreats. I'm just going to be present as a mom. And I know it doesn't matter because it wouldn't change anything. She would still have the feelings she has. The kids are still going to go off to college. Like my time is still limited with them. Like Asher, it was just dawning on me like he's out of the house in the next less than 2 years or 2 years, whatever it is. And like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And so like I'm not going to stop doing the things I'm doing. And I'm going to tell you though, there was a part of me last week that was wavering between the two of like, this is so hard. It's so hard. And so I wanted to share that, not because I have any advice, because I actually have zero advice other than to say it's all to be expected. It's all a part of it. And me just sitting in it and sitting in the uncomfortableness with my daughter or my son whenever they have their feelings and feeling like, yeah, maybe I let them down, even though I did all the things I think I could do. And if I were to go back and do it again, I'd probably make all the same choices. But in their mind, I let them down. That's just the experience. And it's okay. And they're safe and they know that they are loved, even if it means my ego is bruised. And I'm a big enough girl to handle it. And so you wipe your tears away, you shake the dust off, and you get up the next day and you show up and you tell them you love them. And I keep showing up as a mom and I try to figure out the balance between working from the moment they walk in from school and then making a home cooked meal and figuring it all out. But it's tough. And, I try my hardest with whatever this is that I'm doing, whatever this work thing is that I'm doing, of like when I'm on a retreat or when I'm podcasting, whenever I'm working on a book project, whatever I'm working on, like I'm 100% there. I give it my all. I give it my full attention, my whole heart. And then I'm with the kids. I shut everything down and I'm with them and I give them my full attention. I give them my whole heart. And it might not feel like enough at times on either sides. And I think that that's just part of the experience of being human, of feeling like it's never going to feel like enough. And do I wish I had more hours in the day? Yes. And I know that I'm doing great with what I have. And you are too. And our kiddos are just fine. And the time that we have with them, even though it feels limited and like not enough, is enough. And they're getting everything that they need from us. And my job is not to change how they feel about me, but just to sit there and allow them to have their emotions or feelings and let them know that they're safe and that they are loved and that I'm not going anywhere. And so while I can't necessarily fix things with the kids and I have lost all control in our house, okay, because I really have, like I literally have lost all control in our house. I mean, I say that and like our house actually runs really smooth and like beautifully, but it's just like I feel like emotionally I've lost all control. The one thing I can focus on is myself and my own mental well-being and my own mental health. And so I get up every single morning and I do my meditations and they see me do that. And I allow myself the space to kind of process the emotions they have so that I'm not holding on to it. I talk about meditation and mindfulness a lot. And I think there's this misconstrued concept that like if you start meditating or you have this mindfulness practice, your life is going to be like super smooth and like easy peasy. And it's like literally not the case at all. Like life is still super lifey. And I still have, these obviously like I'm going through stuff with my kids. Like that doesn't change. Like it's not gonna change the external world for me. But what it does do is it helps me be able to process it and helps me be able to sit with it and not be so reactionary to it. And so, while yes, the kids stuff is still like rocking my world, and it did last week, I had enough of a wherewithal because of I think my meditation and mindfulness practice to be able to witness what was happening and to pretty quickly be like, oh, wow, this is triggering something within you. You are feeling really sensitive about this. Getting this feedback from the kids is making you feel insecure. It's bringing something up in you. And so instead of me like riding that wave of me being reactionary and getting triggered and responding, I was able to pretty quickly recognize the feelings. Not that the feelings went away, but that I could recognize them as they came up and then give myself the space to process them. And so I was like, okay, I probably need an extra walk tomorrow morning. I'm going to take some extra time. I'm not going to do a big workout. I'm just going to go for a little walk and I'm going to do a little journal moment and process it. All to say, we can't control anything in the outside world. I know that we know this, but especially with our kids, especially in motherhood, like there's this idea, especially if you have younger kids, that there's some of this illusion of control that we have some way to like manipulate the world for them to like make them like not feel pain. And that's just not the reality. Like they are going to go through this human experience that we know is full of just huge emotions, both good and bad. And we're experiencing it. They're experiencing it. We can't control any of that. And all we can do is simply model how to work on coming home to ourselves and staying grounded and centered within ourselves, which is the hardest flipping part of it all. I wish there was an easier way. The only real thing I can do is just allow it to be a swirl, allow it to be the mess, allow the kids that feeling of time being fleeting with them and me feeling this loss of control with them, allow that to exist and to just feel centered and grounded in myself while all of that is happening simultaneously. And it's the hardest thing in the world. So, anyway, if you are struggling, whether it's with kiddos or just juggling it all and managing it all right now, welcome to the club, kids. You and me, with the same boat. And I think we're doing better than we think we are. The kids are okay. We're okay. We've got this. And let's just focus on ourselves. I think the more we can focus on ourselves, the more we can show up and be present for our kids. And that hopefully, in some small way, I guess it helps. Ooh, I was not expecting that. That was heavy for me. I really was struggling there. I think I was just struggling myself to process everything that's going on with my kids. And clearly, it was too soon to talk about it on the podcast. So we're figuring it as we go. So thanks for having a little grace with me as I found the words there. Okay, let's talk about friendships. When I asked questions, when I said, what do you guys want to talk about? The number one thing I got was friendships. So many of you. Lots around friendship betrayals, friendships ending, and finding friends as adults. It's funny. This is like my daughter Lil is actually struggling with friends right now, but she's not struggling with her friends, but she's struggling because she thinks her friends have a lot more friends. And she keeps saying to me, like, they have all these friends and they have these huge groups of friends. And I was like, girl, I'm going to tell you right now, no one has so many friends. Okay. But I think it's interesting because it's definitely was like the number one thing that came back to me about things you wanted to talk about. And I'm seeing it with my daughter who's 14. I still struggle with it at 46. I'm like, I think it doesn't matter whether you are a teen or whether you're in your 40s or whether you're in your 80s. Like, I think friendships are, I don't know, they're such a huge part of our lives. And I think there's something that we can sometimes feel insecure about. And I don't know why that is. But I think one of the number one things is I think we assume everyone has so many friends. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I really don't think anyone has more than like a handful. I think you can count on one hand your close friends. I think we have a lot of acquaintances, people we spend time with, and people we might socialize with, but I don't think those are our good friends. So all to say, like, let's not judge ourselves on like how many friends we have, because I think the idea of like making friends as we're older, like with this idea like that we need so many, and we want this like group, like we see like the girls on Sex and the City or something, and we just, or maybe like there's people at their school that you like school pickup, whatever the kids, and you just think everyone has all these friends. And I actually don't think that that's real. I think people have a handful of friends and the rest are just acquaintances. So I promise you, you're doing just fine in the friend department. Now, the idea of friendships dying or betrayals in friendships, that's really, really real. Listen, I will tell you, with every season of my life, I have friends and women I really, really care about that I was once close with that I no longer am. And whether that's because they've pulled back or I've pulled back or a combination of the above or a misunderstanding of some sort, I think it's healthy and it's okay. There's this idea, I think, of like something ends, that there's a fault that needs to be or blame that needs to be placed. That and we question ourselves, like, did I do something? Are they mad at me? And I will just tell you right now, like, it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. And it really has nothing to do with them. Sometimes people just grow apart. And I think it's okay. I think what the problem we get ourselves into is when we want to examine things and keep things exactly the way they are. Like we want our friends to not evolve and change. And the fact of the matter is you right now listening, like you're evolving and changing. And the women in your life are going to continue to evolve and change. And sometimes you're both on a similar path of like growing together, and other times you're just growing apart. But it doesn't mean that it wasn't a beautiful friendship, or it doesn't mean that they don't love you. And so there are a lot of times like I've had to certain women in my life almost like let them go in love. Not like in a dramatic way, but I'm like, clearly we're not aligned right now, and it's no one's fault, and I don't think it's a big deal, and it doesn't mean that they won't come back in your life at another time. So all to say, if there is someone like in your world that you have a friendship with and it's feeling a little strained and you're like, I feel like we're not as close as we used to be, it's probably because you're not. And I wouldn't beat yourself up about it, and I wouldn't overexamine it. Just got to kind of let people grow and change as they're meant to, and give yourself permission to do the same. And even sometimes I don't think a conversation is always necessary. I think sometimes like we just know. But if it helps to have a conversation and say, hey, I care about you, I'll always love you, and I'm here if you need me. But like, I don't know that we're obviously not spending a lot of time together right now. And I just want you to know, like, I'm okay with it. And I'm here for you if you need me, but like we're okay. And I want you to know, like, I am not upset with you in any way. And I hope you're not upset with me. And if there is something we need to talk about, please let me know. But I will always love you, and no judgment on when we talk next. And kind of just like let it be exactly what it is without having to shame ourselves or judge the other person. So that's sort of my take on friendship. Okay, I got some questions around intuition and following your intuition, or how to make big decisions and change. Lots of questions around decision making and like wanting to make change and not sure how to do it, and questioning myself and like how to follow your intuition. And listen, I think this is another one of those like really big topics that we could take it a lot of different ways. I would just share with you my experience. I think learning to hear your intuition is very different than learning to trust your intuition. And I think learning to hear it, well, of course, I'm going to say like requires meditation or mindfulness, but it really does this idea of like slowing down and hearing your own voice, because there's a very big difference between our egos and our intuition. And our ego leads with this energy of like this rushed energy, of this like anxious energy, the feeling like we have to do something. It's almost this like where you're pushing something, like it feels difficult. And when you sit in meditation and you're asking yourself a question of like, should I be doing this, X or Y, or A or B, or I'm looking to make a change, and you're wanting to tap into that intuition, it's really getting to a point where you can sit and quiet that ego and turn down that rushing mind, and then tap into your true self. And when you're probably listening to this, be like, what is she talking about? What does that feel like? And for me, I can experience things. It's a knowing this is going to sound so cheesy when I say this. So I recognize it before I'm even about to say it, but I can feel it in my body. Like I just know there's like an answer that comes within me that I'm like, I just know the decision. It doesn't mean it's an easy decision. It doesn't mean that I don't question it. My ego and my mind will then be like, wait, what? We're going to do what? We're going to move to California. We're going to stop drinking. Like, what are you talking about? But there's usually a deep knowing within you. And I will tell you that you have already practiced this, like you already know it. So if there's something in your heart right now, like a decision that you're trying to make, or there's something on your mind and it continues to come up for you, that's your intuition. Like that's your gut telling you something. And if it's like that soft voice where you just have this like knowing of like, I need to do something, the one that's usually trying to convince you not to do something is probably your ego. And so really learning to sit and allow things to settle and allow the mind to quiet. I mean, it's going to be really loud at first, but just allow it to settle and then tapping into being like, where is this feeling coming from? And if I close my eyes and simply ask the question of like, how does this make me feel? A lot of times I'll try on a situation in my mind. For example, this idea of like, I'll just use hosting a retreat, for example. Like my mind was like, you don't have time. You shouldn't do this. What if it doesn't sell out? Blah, blah, blah. But when I sat with the idea of like closing my eyes, I sat in meditation, I closed my eyes and picture like, how would this feel to do this? And I could picture it and I could feel my body a certain way. And I was like, oh, that lights me up. That feels good. And then I picture myself not doing it. And I was like, oh, I'm just feeling regret and all these other emotions. And I was like, oh, there's the answer. But I think sometimes we have to like try the experience on in our mind or in our bodies and see how it feels. And so that's really when I talk about this idea of getting into your intuition, it's separating your knowing from your ego. And we all have egos. They're not bad. They serve us really, really well in a lot of ways. But it's when we let our ego lead that it gets us into trouble. Now, about making decisions, I will just tell you there was a piece of advice I heard a long time ago, and I'm going to butcher this, but it was something along the lines of instead of worrying about making the right decision, focus on making the decision right. And so really this idea of like, there is no such thing as a wrong decision. There is no bad decision. So like, it really doesn't matter. And like whatever decision you do make, focus on making that your energy on that decision, the right decision. Like just commit to it. Put all of your effort into it and see what it is that you're going to learn. It doesn't mean you're not going to change your mind and be like, actually, that was a wrong decision. I'm going to do something not wrong decision, but we're going to pivot again. You'll learn something. So I'm going to use this for example. We followed our intuition by we. I mean, it was my intuition. JP went along with it, but I followed my intuition when we moved our family to California. It felt like it was the right thing to do. I knew pretty quickly in my body. It was like a deep body knowing. I'm like, we got to get out of here. We're supposed to go to the West Coast. And my ego was like, this makes no sense. You just did this huge renovation on the house. Why are you doing this? You've got kids going to high school soon. Like, what this economically doesn't make any sense. JP doesn't work there. You have no family there. Like the whole thing, like ego wise made no sense. And yet my body was like, I can't explain it. Like, that's just where we're supposed to be. I know my intuition and I sat with it. It doesn't mean it was easy or that I didn't doubt myself at times, but there was this knowing within me that just like, I just saw ourselves there. And we followed my intuition because JP's the amazing guy that he is and came with me and the four kids obviously came with us. They didn't really have a choice. And we found ourselves out here. And pretty quickly into that, we decided to move again for a lot of circumstances. And I followed my intuition again and moved us out to a suburb a little further away towards the mountains. And pretty quickly, I knew that that was not where we were meant to be. But instead of focusing on being like, that was the wrong decision, I was like, I'm going to make this decision that I just made the right one for us. And while we're here, we're going to make the most of it. And I'm going to give myself permission to pivot and to change. I think we get in this idea of like something has to be like we're comparing A or B and wanting to like what's the right or wrong thing. And I'm just going to say, whichever one you pick, you're going to make it the right thing for however long you need to until you make the next decision. And so I think we just go down this path and we just make the next right decision one after the other without having to know this end goal. What gets us in trouble is like, we're like, I want to make sense of it all, or I want to know where this is going to end up. When we were moving to California and we had this rental house and we hadn't even seen it in person, we saw it online. And had you asked me then, like, where are you going to be 5 years from now? Or what's your long-term plan? I'm like, I have no idea. I literally only know the decision I'm making right now. And when we get there, we'll figure it out and we'll make the next right decision. And listen, I don't think we can live by the seat of our pants with everything, but I will tell you that's sort of where I find myself. I mean, although 2 seconds ago I was crying about my kids feeling out of control. So, I mean, maybe that's also why I feel a little out of control because we are making decisions with the seat of our pants on a lot of things. And that's not how society has really trained us to live. And so it feels vulnerable and it feels scary because we don't know what's going to happen next. And I think we can get to a point where say, I'm not really sure what comes after X and Y. I know we've been told it's Z, but it might not be. And I don't know. And so we're always trying to like predict what's going to happen. And I think when we do that, when our ego gets in this mind of like wanting to control or predict or have an outcome in our mind of how things are going to end up or how it should be, it fucks us up. Like it screws with everything. And so what if instead we just took that out and we said, I'm not really sure where this is going to go. And there is no such thing as a wrong decision. And whatever decision I make, I'm going to make it the right decision and I'm going to give it my all. And when I have an opportunity to pivot again, I might choose something differently. I also really wholeheartedly believe, and we know this, you and I know this, that nothing is permanent. I mean, look at us now, even us sitting here, like we're aging, even in this exact moment, like time is fleeting. Literally, there's nothing permanent in this world, nothing. It's all impermanent. And our decisions are impermanent. So if you don't like something, if you end up going down and making decision A, and you're like, you know what? I might want to try B. Guess what? You try. When we moved out to the mountains and I would pretty quickly was like, oops, I don't know that this is the right place for us. I will tell you, I learned so much that year. It ended up being an incredible year of growth for me personally. It was a huge year of hibernation for me. It changed dynamics in my marriage. It changed things for the kids. Like there was a big part of me that was like, that year was actually really needed. And then when we came back to Manhattan Beach, it was like, yeah, this is exactly where we're meant to be. So in no way do I regret that decision or think it was the wrong decision. It was the right decision in that moment. And then 9 months later, there was a different right decision. And listen, I'm not saying that you should like move houses 101 times. Like, I don't know that financially that was like a great idea. And yet, I think we're exactly where we're meant to be. And it played out exactly how it needed to play out. And it's going to serve, I trust that at the end of the day, it's serving the kids well, it served me well, and that we're learning things along the way that I think are going to make for a really big, beautiful life. But it really requires you to just have faith, not just in the universe, like providing for you, but also in yourself, that like you are safe to trust your intuition. So that's sort of like my take on it. Again, it's really an idea of instead of focus on making the right decision, whatever decision you make, focus on making that decision the right one. Okay, the final little thing that we're going to talk about here now is sobriety, and we can do a whole other episode on sobriety. I need to do a big sobriety update. I am about 4.5 years into my sobriety story. If you have not listened, you can listen to, I think it's like episode 3, where I share my whole sobriety, my journey into sobriety. And it was really life changing for me. By far and away, the number one thing that the best thing I've ever done for myself was become sober. Well, that and start a meditation practice, but like I really like my husband and I like my kids. So like having kids was a good decision too. They were all good decisions, but to say like it's like right up there, like marrying JP and like becoming sober and starting a meditation practice, like right up there. You know what I mean? That's how important and impactful it's been in my life. And I'm going to say, I use the word sober consciously. I am sober from everything. I don't say alcohol free because that's not what I'm doing. I'm definitely sober. I have played with microdosing in the past, and I have played with THC drinks maybe like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And it did not like the way that THC drinks made me feel. Like I was like, whoa, this is basically like I felt like it reminded me like if I had a glass of wine, I was like, I don't like this. This is way too familiar. I feel like I've lost control of my body and my emotions. And I did not like that. It was about a year in that I was sober that I was like, okay, could I play with this? Like, could I do CBD? Could I like what could I play with? And the answer is nothing. The answer for me is nothing. I can't play with anything. Not because I am addicted to anything per se, but because it took me out of the present moment and it clouded my mind. And I don't like that. The beauty and the gift of sobriety for me is being really clear headed and being conscious of what's going on and being really present and feeling in control of my emotions and my body. I mean, not in control, but you know what I mean? Like, just like being present and clear minded. And anything that messes with that, it doesn't feel great. I played with microdosing, I don't know, maybe a year, 18 months ago. And in the moment, I was like, this is interesting. And then afterwards, the next morning, I said to JP, like, I can't do that again. Should be no shame around any of it, but I did feel a little bit of shame. And that's not really why I don't do it now. Again, I don't do it because I don't like things that inhibit me from being really clear-headed and clear-minded. I don't want to mess with anything. So, all to say, sober is not a by chance word. It is a very conscious word. And I think when you are becoming sober, playing with what is going to work for you and isn't going to work for you is really important. And everyone's experience looks different. I could care less what anybody does. I have no opinion on what anyone does. This is just what works for me. So I'm about 4.5 years in, as I've already said. And people were asking some of the questions coming in were around this idea of like, what happens, after the first year? Like, what are the benefits you start seeing? And, the first year really is the physical changes I noticed and kind of going through that withdrawal period because it takes a while for your body to really adjust to living without any alcohol or any kind of, I don't know, whatever the other things you were doing, getting them all out of your system. And then year two really is like excavating more emotions and like being like, what was driving me to drink? What were the triggers? Why did I feel like I needed to? And I was not a huge drinker, but I definitely, on occasions, like probably had one too many. And it was a big part of my social world. And so there were a lot of things, and I started processing year two and year three. And I will say by year four, there is, and I think this happened before year four, but I will tell you by year four, like there is just a huge amount of clarity that comes. And with that clarity, I will say like an enormous amount of confidence. Like I don't even think twice about drinking. I know JP and I shared this on our previous podcast. I was asking him, like, do you ever think about it? Like, there's not a day that goes by that I think about it. If people were to drink in front of me, like it doesn't even faze me. Like I could literally could care less. And that's a really beautiful feeling. There's a freedom that comes with that. And so I'd say, if anything, there's just this clarity and confidence that comes the more time goes on, and it continues to snowball. And so I feel like I take bigger risks in things and I put myself out in other ways. Even the decisions like to move to California, that happened because I was sober. The decision to start a podcast and to try to write a book, like all these things happened because I was sober, because I have a newfound confidence in myself and a new like clarity that wouldn't have happened, at least for me. I'm not saying you can't do these things drinking. For me, it happened because there's a new internal like push, if that makes any sense. Like it woke something up in me. I think that there is a little bit of dulling that happens when we drink. We're numbing ourselves. And when that gets taken away and the world all of a sudden like lights up for you, you're like, okay, hold on a second. Everything is a little bit bigger and fuller and brighter, and it's a little more painful, and it's a little more raw and real and tender. So it's all the things, but you can access your emotions on a deeper level and in a faster way. And you can access, I believe, like your intuition faster. And so just everything it was like got ramped up. So my motivation and my excitement and my determination and my drive, like my creativity, everything felt like it got just like ramped up when I stopped drinking. And I was like, oh, okay. I think there's this idea that when you have a little bit of alcohol in you or some type of like, I don't know, a drug, I'll just say like anything, whether it's alcohol or psilocybin or whatever it is, it turns on your creativity and like allows you to tap into something bigger than yourself. That doesn't ring true for me. I'm not saying it can't ring true for other people, but for me, when I'm my clearest, I'm like the clearest vessel. I know it sounds super cheesy, but when I'm my clearest, I feel like I have the ability to tap into whether it's the divine or the creativity or just like the magic of like the world around us. I can tap into it so much easier. Like it just feels more available to me. So that is sort of the long answer of what happens long term with sobriety and kind of what happened for me. But we'll dive into that bigger and deeper on another day. Lots of other questions. Thank you to everyone who sent them in. Just for length of time, we're going to have that be that's it for today, but I'm going to do a bigger Q&A in the next couple of weeks. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here, for sharing this space with me, for allowing me a place to kind of play with motherhood and kind of this new moment that I find myself in, and for the excitement around the retreats or even having JP on. It's just, you girls really make everything so fun, and gentlemen. I know that I've got a few gentlemen here too. So you make it really fun for me. And I love sharing life alongside all of you. And for anyone who's listening, who is in a similar season as I was last week of really kind of struggling to juggle it all, please know You are not alone. I think the world feels like a lot is being thrown at us right now. Not even to get into like politics or anything, but it's a lot is being thrown at us. A lot's happening in our world and in our country, and it can feel heavy. And then on top of it, you layer the stress of finances and kids and homes and working out and our health and relationships and aging parents and the whole thing. You throw that all on top of it. And being human is not for the faint of heart. Like it is a lot. And it is impossible. It is impossible to juggle it all. There's no one who is. And so I am working this week on setting some things down and being really gentle with myself. And it is a daily practice because my mind loves to mess with me. And so if your mind is messing with you and telling you that you're behind or not doing well enough, we're going to shut that down. Okay. Me and you both. We're going to give ourselves a lot of grace this week and just tread really lightly out there. Be gentle with yourself, be gentle on each other. We are all in this together and we're doing a great flipping job, no matter how it feels. All right. I love you. Have a great week. I will see you guys all next week. And thanks for listening.